and welcome to Paranormal Extraction. And today we have Adamo on, and he is an up-and-coming artist, musician, and TV personality. So you're definitely going to want to hear about him. Today we are talking about the paranormal, music, and women. All right. So hey, Adamo, how are you? Did you like my little introduction, Mr. Paranormal Enthusiast? I think we kind of spoke about that, and I wasn't going to cross over and do anything horrible and say you were a ghost, investigator or hunter.
Right.
But let's talk a little bit about the paranormal. I know we got like 30 minutes, so let's talk about. I know that you're an up and coming TV personality. And how did you first start getting into this? I know that you were a young child, and why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, do you want me to start from the beginning? The beginning, when I was a teenager and how I got into all this stuff?
Yeah, why don't you talk about that experience on the especially the camera that you can't manipulate any of the photos on. And that and also the fact that you do catch apparitions or ghosts on film is also another highlight.
Yeah, so these are three topics we're covering, and they're kind of related, kind of unrelated. But the paranormal thing, which has to do with the TV thing that I'm involved in, stems from experiences that I've had when I was a child, well, a teenager, I would say. In fact, I was with somebody last night who is sensitive to these things. I'm gonna go off topic for 2 seconds. She had reminded me that I did have a weird experience when I was a kid. Before I even got into investigating the paranormal, I had a sister who passed away when I was 12. She was 4.5. And I don't know if it was my imagination at this time because I was so young, but I remember laying in bed and concentrating on after she had passed, seeing her, having her visit me when I was like falling asleep or in the middle of the night if I'd wake up. And there was a couple of times where I heard knocking on a desk that I had, this little blue desk I had in my bedroom. And I would always look for little footprints in the carpeting. That sounds strange. But that was my first ever thought of the afterlife.
Oh, wow.
Now, if we fast forward to like 16 years old, 17 years old, when I got my license and I had lots of friends with me, the first really scary experience happened when we visited. It was a group of us, through word of mouth, heard about this place called the Broadview Heights Insane Asylum, and it was about half an hour southeast of where I had lived at the time. And this was before social media or anything, so like the place wasn't destroyed with graffiti. When you find out about things word of mouth back then, it didn't get exploited so quickly as these locations do these days because of social media, YouTube, and stuff like that. When you hear about a new location, it spreads like wildfire real quick.
Right. Yeah.
So this was kind of untapped territory. It was called Broadview Heights Insane Asylum, and I had heard about it through word of mouth at school. Maybe I couldn't recall. This was a long time ago. So we drove. There was about 5 of us. We packed into my car. I had just got my license. I was one of the few in my group of friends that had his license in a car. So we drive down there and we pull up to this building, and I'm telling you right now, when we pulled up, there's this long like entranceway, maybe like 1/8 of a mile, and then you just see this building, and it's so scary. It's completely abandoned. It's a hospital. It's 8 floors, right? So we find a way to get to the back door, and I'm already freaked out at this point. So it was only me and my friend Ryan who got out into the back door. And I had a 35 millimeter disposable camera with me. Those old school wind up ones, you wind them up and you get the clip, and then you take it to the 1 hour photo, which I, at the time, had been working at. So I grabbed that camera. I had 3 photos left on this roll that I had in my car. So we busted the door down. I know it's illegal. Well, this is a long time ago. But so I think I'm removed from that 7-year clause where you can't get charged. So as soon as this door opens, I had never felt this in my life because I've never seen anything like this. It was just the longest, darkest, most decrepit hallway I'd ever seen in my life. There was no, the walls, the ceiling, everything was falling apart. There were gurneys, there were medical papers on the ground, books, just things all scattered about, but it wasn't graffitied, it wasn't trashed. It was literally what was left behind from the hospital. It's like they all just got up and left. And I was too afraid at that point, because seeing this for the first time, this type of thing for the first time, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna take a couple steps in and take three photos and we're getting the hell out of here. So we took 3 shots, wound it up, took 3 shots, left. Next day I was working at the photo lab, developed the film, and the first 2 photos were just like, normal photos of a dark hallway. The third photo, there was a lady, the silhouette of a lady standing right in front of us, and she must have been wearing, it was like she was wearing some kind of like gown, like a medical gown though, and black. It looked like long dark hair, and just there was nothing here though. It's just blackness, like a skull. It was distorted, and it was bluish, of a bluish hue, and it was. I thought maybe, just to make sure on the negatives, I checked that it wasn't a chemical imbalance in the machine or anything, and it's on the negative because I made more copies of it. Unfortunately, I do not have that photo anymore. It's gone. I've tried desperately to find it, and it's long gone. My friend Ryan, I gave it to him, the last copy, and it's been gone. So I guess my goal in this whole paranormal path that I've taken the last few years is to acquire that evidence that I once had and lost. Because there's a couple other photos I got back then using like old school analog gear, which I feel like yields the best results, really. All this digital stuff, all these like weird apps and things that just like blurred out words with reverb on them. It's all hogwash.
Right.
It's just that original stuff. It's
so
really
now you've captured images on camera since then, since you've been ghost static, right?
Yes. So if we fast forward, we'll talk about the music thing after this, but if we fast forward to the paranormal realm of things in my life, I had always, since then, since I was 16, I had always went on to investigate places on my own. I didn't film. I would maybe take a camera. I would maybe take like an EMF detector, but I was just doing it for fun. I enjoyed it. So I'd go to all the places around Cleveland where I'm at right now. And I lived in New York for a while. And there was a time where I was like, I think when I'm get burned out with the music, I'm going to try and shoot my own documentary. So I decided in 2018 that I was going to do that. And I did that and released it the end of 2018 with my ex-girlfriend from England. I had moved to England for a little while and lived with her. We explored a couple places there, and then we did one here in Cleveland at the Fantasy. It's a venue. It's a big it's 3 venues in one building. There's a huge theater, then there's the Pirates Cove upstairs. I think that's what it's called. The Fantasy was upstairs, the Symposium was downstairs, and the theater was in the main central area. We did a documentary there. I shot it, filmed it. So I had help with filming, but did all the post-production and released it. I just put it out there. I put it on some Facebook groups, put it on YouTube, and then this is, like I said, end of 2018, and about a week after I did that, I got I got an email from a guy by the name of Mark Marinaccio, who is somebody who had done a season or 2 of Ghost Hunters. He's done a couple seasons of The Dead Files, and he saw what I did, and he liked what he saw. So initially he said, we're doing a series where each episode is a different paranormal group. And then he said, screw that. He's like, I want to build a show around you and what you're doing. Sign this 1-year holding contract, and we're going to develop a show. And then it was off to the races after that.
Right. So during this, you have captured, that's what I was asking, you have captured images on, you have this proof though, right? Okay.
I definitely got some evidence, caught some real physical, tangible evidence within the past few years of me doing this. If you want me to be specific, there's a theater not too far from me. There is a Pool Park Asylum in North Wales. It's some very good audio and visual there. Denbigh Asylum, in also in England. Kings Park Asylum in New York I got to go back. It's only about a half hour from my dad's house out there on Long Island, and it's like some 30 odd buildings. It's an entire city. Like they had their own train stop. If you look up Kings Park Asylum,
really,
absolutely insane. Yeah, there was just too much to cover.
Absolutely insane. Asylum insane.
Pun intended. Pun intended.
Okay, well that's absolutely wonderful. So now, how is Ghost Static the paranormal for the paranormal, or is that for just your music?
So Ghost Static initially was for my music project that I had started, but with every music project that I have done in the past, so I was in a band for a while and had done other musical projects. And then ironically, I named all of them. This is how you know it's genuine with the paranormal thing. They were all named after paranormal experiences. So I had a band called Arc Peninsula. That was the first band I ever started, singing for. And Arc Peninsula was the name of the street that I could tell you another story, but it's kind of a long, drawn-out story. But I named that band after a paranormal experience. And this is not anything that I caught on camera, but this is just something that my friends and I had experienced growing up.
Right.
So Ghost Static was a term that actually was a typo initially. It was a typo trying to explain somebody either via text or something like that. When you take an old camcorder and you plug it in with the RCA jacks, the red, white, and yellow jacks, directly into a TV, like a tube TV.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a tube TV, but chances are if it has those connections, it's going to be older. And you take that camera and you point it at the screen. So you've got the screen here and you've got the camera pointing at it, and it's plugged in and it's on record, and it's just recording its own signal. So it's a feedback loop. And what happens is it gets this, it's kind of like when you have a microphone and you feed back the signal to a speaker, and eventually it makes this loud squeaking sound. When you're feeding back a video signal, so what happens is it gets scrambled, and then you've got these weird images that flash on the screen, and it's almost like you're tapping into another realm. And sometimes you actually catch like a silhouette of a person or a weird, I don't know, all kinds of weird anomalies you can catch doing that. And so I was trying to explain what happens when the static of the camera is caught. And I said something like, I meant to type the word ghost static, but it turned into ghost static. So then I just ran with that.
So you just went with that. Okay. So you have some records out, or not records actually, but, vinyl maybe.
Well, yeah, I'll get to that in a second. So with the ghost stuff that's going on right now, so I developed a show. I'll catch you up on that. I developed a show with Mark Marinaccio. I don't know how much I can share about that, but
well, I thought you couldn't share that much about it.
I can just tell you that the show was called Haunted Attraction, and it was about my ex and I, but it had to do with our personal relationship as well. And, some of that, unfortunately, didn't pan out, so we couldn't use that. We couldn't do that show. That show wasn't going to happen. So I signed with another production company called Painless, and they've been developing. They got a lot of shows. They cast me on Holzer Files, but unfortunately I was too late to get on because Mark wouldn't let me out of my holding contract at the time. And so I went with them anyways afterwards because they were working on some other shows. Wow. We started developing, after my contract lapsed with Mark, it was November 2019. I went back out to LA and signed with Painless, and then we started developing a show January, February 2020, and then of course COVID hit, so everything got put on hold. We had to do the sizzle reel via like Zoom calls. So they were just taking footage that looks similar to this, which is not real quality, and put together for one show, put together a sizzle reel, and then for another show that they're currently developing right now that they had me read some lines for. But none of them have been greenlit or pushed to pilot or anything like that yet. Right. So kind of in limbo like that, stuck in that. That's where I stand right now with the paranormal stuff. I'm going to still film some stuff independently, and I'm going to start doing that soon. Usually August, September, I like to do that because in October you've got all that time to, tis the season, right? You want to have some
exactly
footage.
Yeah, that's when I'm supposed to go to the UNR, which is the University of Nevada, Reno. It's supposed to be the most haunted university. So I've got it in to go into there. So I'm going to be doing that in the fall, is going in there. Yeah,
Cool.
which is really hard to get into, but it's not what you know, it's who you know, right?
So true.
We've already talked about that. So why can't you get me on one of these shows?
Apparently, I don't know
I'll
the
let
right
you
people
see me on there. No, you wouldn't like me because I don't believe in any of the stuff that goes on, you know, with the EVP and the EMF, and I'm kind of a little different. The dowsing rods, the compass, you know.
Very old school, okay.
Yeah, very old school, like the Warrens, but less than the Warrens.
Yeah.
The famous Warrens.
Mhm.
So, okay, so let's move on to the music because I know we're you know, going to cut it short on time here.
Let me ask
Sure,
one,
sure.
Okay,
one
we got a
question.
On the music end of things, go ahead.
Let me ask you one question. So before
What's
you, do you write words still to the DJing that you do, or are you writing your own songs and writing paranormal words with your music?
Okay.
Adamo?
It's all original music. I don't ever do any
Cool.
I'm not like in a cover band or anything like that. All I do is original music.
Sweet.
But I have covered songs in an odd way. You know, I actually covered a song, you know, the Police's "Don't Stand So Close to Me."
Sweet.
I did a cover of that, but it's a departure from the original. It's very dark and ominous, and with those words being said, that kind of describes the overall feel of the music that I create. It's a little dark. It's a little ominous.
Yeah, I listened
Cool.
to one of those, and and I liked it. So
It's almost like if 9 Inch Nails came out in 2021.
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
modern take on industrial rock, but it's electronic. But I'm using modern production values that you would hear in like dance music today or electronic music today.
Yeah, it was very cool. I liked it.
How do you find it?
YouTube, he's got it on YouTube and he's got it on Facebook is where I saw it.
Really?
Spotify, I'm everywhere. I got global distribution. So if you look at the stuff that I've released independently, now I just signed, well, still waiting on a contract to sign it, but it's heading this way with a label called Imagine, and they're under Warner. So I should have that contract by Monday or Tuesday this week. They drafted one, and there was something in there that I have to look
Nice.
over. So
Yeah.
Nice.
yeah, that should
Well,
be done.
just-
Deal, and then it's off to the races with that. Because the cool thing with music is I have complete control over it. With this TV thing, it's just a waiting game, and
Right.
it's so annoying.
Right,
So
exactly.
I have to do this. I always need a creative outlet. All I've done is like creative stuff, and if I don't have something in my control, then I'll lose my mind. Really.
Right, exactly. So we're talking to a famous person. I know you hate that name. I had to throw it out. I'm up and coming. Okay.
Coming would make sense. Yeah.
I know. I'm just really trying to get you pissed off there. Just a little bit.
I'm not pissed off. It's
Just a
just
little bit.
I hear that, and I'm
Just
like,
a
yo,
little
I'm not
bit.
famous though. Like
Just
nobody.
a little bit.
You're famous.
Okay. So tell me about, is there anything else you wanted to talk about your music?
Check it out. It's Ghost Static. It's all underneath that name. That name's all
Ghost
encompassing.
Ghost
So
Static.
I use that as my YouTube channel. So you'll see some paranormal investigative stuff on YouTube, but then you also see a couple music videos that I did. Well, one music video, a couple lyric videos, 2 music videos, I'm sorry. And, you know, if you use whatever streaming services you use, you can find it, Ghost Static. But I haven't released a song. I got a song coming out September 17th on a label called Enthusiast Records, but that's a dance song that I produced and wrote. And then, well, I wrote it and co-produced it, and I have a different singer on it. It's not me singing. I sing a little bit on it, but my own solo stuff is going to be coming out, I would say in September will be the first release. So keep your eye out. for that.
Right, yeah, so we can keep our eye out for a lot of stuff. Now, the last topic was women.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I threw that out there. Because I think I had said a few things too that alluded to the fact that yes, there's a lot of women in my life. I've lived a lot of lives because of that. And then, of course, that thing that happened in Vegas. I think everybody's got a story in Vegas.
Yeah, I remember that story. That was a good story.
I don't know how much I want to share of that, but
we-
yeah, there's been,
That's okay.
you know,
We shared both
Has to
our
stay in
stories.
Vegas.
You know, we shared both our stories. So
yeah, you and I both, right?
yeah, but yours was quite almost traumatic.
It was traumatic. I think it always ends up being traumatic, right? Like,
Yeah,
I don't ask for this shit. It just happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Like last Saturday, I was with someone, and they were like, this guy comes up to me. He's like, he's like, who are you? What do you do? I'm like, I'm just here. I'm just the DJ. It was at this club that I was working at, so I stay humble. But yes, there's been. I could go on for. I think I might write a book about all that stuff.
Okay, right.
Because I seem to be the guy who my friends are always asking me to tell stories because they like to vicariously live
Well,
through.
come on. I mean, if you're a DJ, I mean, come on. All right. Of course.
I don't think it's DJing thing. Yeah, maybe that helps,
it's gonna be your look, the way you're spinning, or whatever you're doing up there, and then the little cocktails and the women, and pretty soon, before you know it, you've got 30 or 40 women piled up, stacked to your station, and you're looking around to see which one you want. Is that what we're talking about?
No.
And I would probably be right up in the front.
It happens in such a way that, like, I don't know if you'd even believe me if I told you some of the things that have happened. I don't know, just last weekend, just last night. I mean, things are just, sometimes I struggle to make things happen on my career end, even though I work really hard, like, to be good at what I do or to be as good as I possibly could be.
Right.
Yeah, on the woman part of my life, the women's side of my life, it's never been a struggle. It's almost been like, I wish I could trade my experiences and my abilities in that sense for, like,
how
solid record deal or maybe a TV show.
right with how many women. Well,
I'm burned out.
Okay,
I'm burned out.
You're burned out on it. Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, look at you. And then you're
That's
up
what
there
he's saying.
playing music.
That's how it is.
Now it's a burnout for you. So now you want to take your next level, I'm hoping, and into go static and waiting on your contracts for being a paranormal enthusiast. Am I correct? Is that
Yeah, I mean,
what you're doing?
It's been just one giant waiting game this whole time. So since the music thing, I relaunched or I had approached it again with this new project, the Ghost Static project, and with plans to launch that in 2020. Well, of course, 2020 was probably the worst year you could ever do anything, and both things that I wanted to work on heavily evolve around these restrictions with traveling and COVID and entertainment and large crowds of people in a single location. So
right.
It's been nothing short of depressing, really. There's been some times where I just was like, for Christ's sake.
Got to keep going, man.
Well, during that COVID too, I mean, I used to have a shaman that worked with me. Not a shaman that goes out and gets a certificate, a true Lakota shaman that worked with me. He died. Okay, yeah, that's how I worked, was with him. That's the kind of work we did together. And he died, and so then I went through that whole battle of him dying, and then COVID hit, and I was like, what am I going to do now? It was horrible.
Yeah.
So that's how I started to do at least do the interviewing, because I could do that on Zoom.
Yep.
And what else could you do? There was not much to do, so I had to do something creative. So luckily that really worked out for me, but now I really want to get back out there doing the paranormal. But how do you find a shaman, a true shaman?
I don't know.
You don't. You don't.
I know. It's funny you mentioned that. Like, I know people who are going to I know two people completely unrelated to each other who are both going to shaman schools in different states.
Yeah, I'm
I think it's growing. I think that whole concept of shamanism is growing. Is that a word?
Yeah,
yes,
but the guy that that I dealt with, he really, really, really adamantly was totally against those kind of certifications. If you're a true Native American, and that those people have no right doing what they're doing by going to a school and doing what they're doing. He was, serious guy.
I believe it. The girl I was with last night, she was part Native American. So she was sensitive to things. So we did some filming with another friend of mine, and it was him and I, it was our idea, but it was his, I don't know, we got connected somehow, all of us. So she had mentioned, and she's not the only person who I've known in my life who was part Native American, and just by default, I guess, if you're part Native American, you have some kind of sense of things, and she was reading auras everywhere we were at. It was crazy.
Nice.
Yeah, that's cool. So is there anything else you want to talk to? Because I know we're on a time limit here. Or
No, I mean, I could go on and on forever about it.
We'll do another show.
You can save that for another time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
There's gotta go, but
So I really appreciate you coming on here. I mean, I know it was short and sweet, but it's always better that way because people's attention spans kind of drift off after a certain amount of time is what I've noticed.
yeah,
So-
I think 30 minutes is a good cutoff time.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say I really appreciate you coming on today. Thank you so much.
And I also would like to add, thanks for telling us that in your adventures that you have gathered objective pseudoscience proof. Objective,
Yeah.
not subjective, like you know, that like the photograph,
Yeah.
the photograph you lost. So that
Oh.
encourages people to do
You can do it. You can
Yeah,
investigate.
you can
Now,
keep
anybody
going.
can do it if they have a camera, but I'm telling you right now, old school analog cameras that shoot on regular film, they yield the best evidence. When I
Cool.
was younger, I had two photos actually. One that was featured on some website for years. Again, lost that one. That was on a hard drive somewhere. So, from Franklin Castle, right up the street. I'm sure you've heard of that place.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely the old school techniques. And
Do they sell them still?
yeah, you gotta order them though.
Do
They
ya?
don't sell them at like Walgreens. Maybe they do sell them at Walgreens still, but it's definitely like a vintage, antiquated type of approach to photography. So it's a specialty.
'Cause I'm gonna tell-
Novelty, I should say.
I'm
That's the
gonna,
word.
on that note, what you're saying there, a fellow guy that I work with was out, another paranormal thing, but now it's UFO type, okay? He was out with some friends. Some strange things was happening in the smoke when they went up in the mountains there. They could see the lights from the cities, but their cameras didn't work.
Yeah.
Really?
So-
Yeah, well, they
Yes.
all went dead.
So-
They just lost all their power, so we definitely know something's going on up there.
We're gonna order some of those.
Yeah, okay, so,
Good.
anyways, I like Polaroids.
Okay, yeah, you were saying that. Polaroids are great. You
Yeah.
can get Polaroids. Those have come back. Those have become trendy, so you can get those relatively easily.
Yeah, exactly, and you can't manipulate them, so that's even better.
Yeah, to get a 35 millimeter camera and then have the film developed, it's not as easy as it used to be. There's no 1 hour photos anymore.
Yeah, that's the next
Yeah,
question.
exactly. So where
Oh,
would
yeah.
you do that, online?
So you send them out. You go to like Walgreens or CVS or whatever, and you go and you say, "Here, I want to send these out." They send them somewhere, and
Oh,
then
okay.
they come in the mail like 2 weeks later instead of an hour later. So they've kind of
Wow.
gotten backwards with
Okay,
time.
Well,
Thanks.
that's some great information to give to
Yeah.
people. Thank you for that.
you're awesome.
Okay, so thank you for being on today. I really appreciate
having
it,
me.
Adamo, and I love that name. And how
Thank
do you
you.
say your last name? And then it's Ghost Static. You want to,
I'll send you some links if anybody wants to see what I'm up to. It's just most of my activity happens either on Instagram or YouTube. Will be popping soon here. I'll put some content up there. Instagram and YouTube. I do have a pretty big following on TikTok, but I stopped posting on there because I don't know, the content to keep up with on all three platforms has become kind of a pain in the ass. So I may switch back to TikTok because I did that during quarantine and gathered about 14,000 followers or something because it was the most active. I do like it there, but
14,000
you got to really
followers.
come up with good quality content
Right.
to get any type of traction. So
Cool.
I'll tap into that again. But yeah,
Well-
if you just search the word Ghost Static, I'll give you the links, like I said, if you want to post it with the
Yeah.
video or whatever.
And we
Okay.
want to wish you good luck for.
Hey, Adamo,
everything.
can you send me a little 3-sentence about you so I can put that up?
Sure.
Just a little 3-sentence thing that I can put up, 3 or 4 sentences. Just
Sure, yeah, I can do that.
about. That would be great, just so I can put that at the top, but I want it in your language because
Okay.
you won't want me saying that, famous, up and coming.
Okay.
Use
Oh, yeah, well,
this
that's what
kind
he
of
is.
camera. Don't go out with a bunch of women. Oh, you're hosed up.
You froze up.
Okay.
You there?
All right. Well, we kind of finished with Adamo
Yeah.
today with Ghost Static.
Hang on, let me
That's
get, I got, okay.
GHOSATIC.
Okay.
So we had a great time with him today, and I'm
Awesome.
going to say over and out, and thank you for watching.
Sweet.